Welcome back. You are watching News Center. Incoming US President Donald Trump has enumerated his expansionist plans with just 2 weeks left for his return to the White House. In an hour-long press conference, Trump spoke of plans to make Canada the 51st American state and acquire Panama Canal and Greenland. Trump insisted that he would use economic force to acquire Canada if needed, adding that this was needed for Canada's protection and security. The president-elect also maintained that both the Panama Canal and Greenland were essential for America's economic security. The statements are part of a broader expansionist agenda that he has promoted since winning the November 2024 election. The incoming US president also weighed in on Israel's war on Gaza. He warned that all hell will break out if Hamas does not release all the hostages before he takes office on the 20th of January. Trump also took aim at the outgoing US President Joe Biden, blaming him not only for the tensions in West Asia, but the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. The president-elect blamed Biden for triggering Russia's attack on Ukraine by advocating for Kyiv's entry into NATO. Trump concluded his remarks by brushing aside concerns about his ally Elon Musk's repeated attacks on European governments. He added that the tech billionaire was doing a great job. I caught up with former Indian ambassador to the United States, Arun Singh, to ask him what he made of Trump's remarks and his expansionist plans.
In the past also, Trump has every now and then made some very explosive comments, but not necessarily followed up on them. Some, of course, he did follow up. Reports by people who worked closely with him in the first administration point out to the fact that he's been very erratic, unpredictable in his comments, in his decisions. So we have to certainly note what he's saying, but it's better not to get too worked up about every statement that he makes. Again, if you recall, in his first administration, he started by being very tough on Pakistan, saying stop all assistance to Pakistan. And then when he needed support from Pakistan to do a deal with the Taliban, which he did in 2020, then he invited the then Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan to the White House and said that I'm ready to mediate on Kashmir out of the blue. And he further went on to say that Indian Prime Minister had asked him to mediate on Kashmir, which is completely not true. So, here is a president of a major country not conditioned by facts in policy positions or pronouncements that he makes. So that's one. Second, he started by being very tough on China, talking about tariffs and other things, and then went on to do a limited phase one trade agreement with China in January 2020, because he felt that that would work well for him politically in the Midwest states, where China had in principle committed to buy more farm produce, whereas everybody knew that they were not going to do it. So he's playing his politics, he's playing for some negotiating leverage, and so it's clear that neither the Canadians will want to be a part of the 51st part of the United States, nor will Denmark or Greenland agree to become part of the United States. But, by saying all this, he gives the pretense of being very strong. And that works well with his base. That we now have a strong president who wants to make America strong. So that's the play at the moment. And
Ambassador
some minor concessions.
Ambassador Singh, do you think this is just a hard bargaining tactic? Push your opponent so hard in the negotiation that you get what you want, be it solving the trade deficit issue with Canada or tariffs with India or the relationship with China as well?
Well, the only thing here is that at the moment he's not really pushing his opponent. He's pushing his friends and partners. The Canadians are NATO allies of the US, a G7 partner, a neighbor with which they have a very good relationship. Denmark is part of NATO. So at the moment, or, talking with the Panama Canal, very not very powerful country, which does not even have a military. So at the moment, he's not even pushing his opponents. He's pushing his friends, partners, and weaker countries, and giving a pretense of strength. If he came out with a strong statement against Russia or a strong statement against China, then people could interpret that he's taking on his adversaries. So I think this is just a show of strength so that it appeals to his base. And one could even argue that by pretending to be strong, he could then try and make deals with Russia, with China. Because if he just goes ahead and does deals with Russia and China, people will criticize him as being weak. So as a president of the United States, he has to show strength in some quarter. So you show strength against people who are not able to push back against you.
Right.
So we'll have to watch and see
Ambassador
what
Singh,
his
we've
play
also
is.
been seeing Elon Musk lash out at Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister and the UK government. Do you get a sense the statements that have been made by Elon Musk against the UK or the statements made by the Donald Trump administration against Canada, about the Panama Canal, about Greenland, about the Gulf of Mexico? Do you think these could actually spoil America's relationship with allies, put them, maybe make them less confident about the relationship with the United States?
So at one level, just if he only makes pronouncements, they'll all be irritated and they'll recall Trump 1.0 when he went back and forth, refused to make a commitment to NATO, or the Article 5 commitment on coming to the assistance of NATO partners. But if he does something specific, then certainly it will be a major challenge to the transatlantic partnership, even to the NATO alliance structure. So we have to see what does he actually do. But there's another thing at play. Trump himself and Elon Musk certainly is trying to encourage the more right-wing parties, not just in US and Canada, but also in Europe, because they feel that they are more ideologically inclined towards the kind of politics they bring to the table, or the kind of politics that Elon Musk wants to encourage. So not just the British or Prime Minister Starmer, but even in Germany, he has come out in support of the extreme right-wing AfD party. So that's another thing they're trying to do, is encourage the right-wing parties in Europe who would be more aligned ideologically to Trump and Elon Musk, and see if through that they can pursue not just their political, but also their business interests. Because, Elon Musk has very strong business interests, certainly in the US, in China, in Europe, and he'd like to see how he can use his leverage to get concessions and advantages for himself.
Right. My final question would be on the Middle East. He also said in his press conferences that all hell will break loose if hostages still held in Gaza are not returned by Inauguration Day. What do you think is Donald Trump's game plan in terms of bringing peace to the region?
So nobody knows. So, he said all hell will break loose, but as it is, conditions are very tough. Israel has carried out activity in Gaza since October of 2023. There's been severe bombing in Lebanon, then a ceasefire with the Hezbollah. There's been a change of government in Syria. There have been exchanges between Iran and Israel. Of course, the Houthis have carried out activity in Red Sea. So when he says all hell will break loose, one doesn't really know what he means, unless, again, it's more of a posturing. And in case something happens related to the hostages, of course, he will signal that as a win. The other change that has happened is that normally during the transition, after the election and before the new president-elect actually takes over, the president-elect and his team normally lie low, because the argument is that there is only one president at the moment, and that president is there till 20th January of this year. But in this case, President-elect Trump and his team are behaving as if already they are playing a role in governance. And his special envoy of the Middle East is claiming that he's involved in the hostage negotiations. He's making a visit to Qatar. So they're handling it differently this time, trying to show that already playing a role, and that the Biden administration is already a lame duck administration, and giving space to the Trump-elect administration to play some role in decision-making.
All right. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of News Center. More news and updates continue right here.